Today we're with Dan, and we're taking a closer look at the Hawker Hurricane, the Battle of Britain version, kind of an early war one. Love the color scheme, and kind of cool to have the comparison side by side with the one that's in Rats and Foxes.
Right. Yeah. This is mine from like 5 years ago. I just brought it in. Cody made the new one. They're the same plane, so obviously there's going to be similarities. The size is just dead on. I'm kind of jealous because the parts that are available now just weren't there when I did mine. But I was looking at mine and going, wow, there's some parts on here you can't get anymore either.
Yeah, you were talking about some of the in certain colors, anyways, that just don't exist.
Yeah. So of course mine was a trop. This is a later model with the cannons on it, specially designed for the desert. This is an earlier model of the Hurricane, Battle of Britain colors. So you're going to have that sort of earth brown and dark green color scheme. So Cody, did this because we were doing a whole series of Battle of Britain. So we changed our Messerschmitt to the early war version, and we changed our Spitfire to the early war version.
Right.
So just for that, just to do the Battle of Britain, and this will be the last, I think, of the British planes of the summer for the follow-up to the Battle of Britain theme. We'll be doing more, of course, in the future. This is just our we're moving on to Red October, things like that now.
Right, exactly, kind of wrapping up. So correct me if I'm wrong, but when this initially started off, it wasn't necessarily designated a ground fighter or a ground attacked aircraft, but then as it kind of evolved and the Spitfire took over as the fighter, that's when you came to something like this, when it was truly designated okay.
So don't get me wrong, the Hurricane was actually, if you look at the numbers, the Hurricane was actually far more successful than the Spitfire at attacking aircraft, but those numbers are kind of skewed because the Hurricane versus the slower, less agile bombers did extremely well. Versus the small, nimble Messerschmitt, you needed something like a Greyhound, like the Spitfire, really taking on. Not saying that these couldn't take on a Messerschmitt, but you were more likely to succeed with a little bit smaller, more graceful fighter like the Spitfire. So
need some agility. Okay, fair enough. And so that kind of hence the effectiveness, but then also the non-effectiveness against fighters is kind of what made it go, well, this is still a great aircraft, let's make it ground attack.
It has the same Rolls-Royce Merlin engine that the Spitfire has. It's very durable. The Spitfire is very nimble and sleek. This is more of a brute. It's bigger. It's actually huge sections of this airplane are made of wood still. Almost the entire fuselage is made of wood. It would make it slower to produce, but also it took a lot of pressure off the supply of aircraft grade aluminum. The wings and stuff are still aluminum, but the main parts of the fuselage is all built by, it's like plywood.
Wow.
It's a plywood airplane, yeah. So it's kind of like a bygone era, they a throwback. So the Mosquito is sort of the same thing.
The Wooden Wonder, yeah, right.
So the Hawker Hurricane is the same thing. This was actually developed earlier before the Spitfire. This is a little bit older. This is a little bit more into the mid 30s.
Yeah, cool. Well, we'll have Landon in to talk a little bit more about the cross element printing as well as the minifig.
Right.
But just in comparison with your model, what are some of the updates that you saw Cody being able to bring? Some of those new elements that you were talking about.
Well, of course, these wedge slopes here. I mean, you can just really make the tapered look of the fighter,
nose,
which is really clunky. I wasn't able to do that. If you look at the nose of mine in comparison, it's really flat, so you can see it's a square right there, whereas Cody was able to get a much more refined look. So that's bringing it to a whole new level. Generally, the construction techniques are more or less the same.
Sure. Yeah, and you can definitely see, like when you talked about the size and shape, I mean, they're both really spot on.
Right. They both have working landing gear. This piece did not exist when I made mine.
Sure.
If you remember my old Spitfire, or not my Spitfire, my Messerschmitt has a frying pan.
That's the
tail wheel.
Okay, that's excellent.
So we've adapted this little 1x1 round piece with a bar as the standard tail dragger rear wheel now. But I didn't have that luxury back then, so I had to sort of.
That's a nice little setup, though. That's not bad. Especially if it was a dually on the back or something.
It's not the real thing, but on the profile, it certainly looks looks apart. I like some nice touches that Cody made. He put the little red tape. It's tape they actually put over the intake, the gun ports. So if they came home from a mission and that tape was still intact, it means they didn't fire their gun.
Gun's wrong. Yep.
And that was a good indicator. You don't have to do the maintenance to the guns because it didn't have any. They weren't fouled up at all. And it also would keep the guns clean.
Sure.
So until you had to actually fire them, you wouldn't have any insects or dirt or anything going down those barrels. Of course, it's not what you don't want to have that
no kidding.
at all. So I love the little this little diamond.
Great use of that piece.
That Pentagon piece. It really makes that shape work well. Yeah, curved slopes. I mean, they were just getting started with curved slopes when I was doing my earlier fighters, and now they're the norm. It's kind of a cool transition. So, you know, things that we can do now. So expect more of that kind of stuff in the future.
Still very, very cool to see an early war version of something, a late war version of something, and yet the early war version is the updated model because of the part count from Lego.
This is actually mid-war. Cool. They kept actually refining them throughout the year. This was a special one so by 1943 they stopped. You know, the North Africa campaign was over.
Right.
But they did still use them in Italy and you know, the Southern Europe, of course, in defense of Britain. But there was no attacks anymore at that point. The Germans, the next attacks from the Germans would be done with rockets, not airplanes.
Right.
So.
Well, very, very cool. Awesome side by side. Now to get a little bit more into the printing and in this minifig as well, we're going to bring in Landon and hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I guess starting with the printing on this, it's kind of an unprecedented thing we're doing here. Historically, we would have done a camouflage blotch like this, probably with a sticker or something like that.
Sure.
And then same thing with the roundel. In this case, we're opting to kind of take it to the next level here and do full UV printing on this. One of the most difficult printing challenges we've actually encountered, because if you look at this, obviously it's across the 3 different pieces with that roundel, and then that camouflage blotch is going around like a complex curved angle. So it's one curve this way and one curve this way. So we had to have it held in that printer at a perfect angle to get that working. So simple artwork, I put that together. Slam actually was sort of heading that UV print department in that for this job, and that was really cool to see him trying out some new techniques for that. So that turned out great. Any other printing on this thing? I think the rest of it would be stickers. Other than the minifigure. British, you've seen this pilot before. He's got that life preserver. He has that simulated wool suit here, the British battle dress. Really smart looking uniform actually. Boots, and one thing, I love the face on this guy, and specifically the goggles. I think those British goggles from that era, I think they're just so iconic. Kind of steampunk actually looking in a way.
Sure, I can understand that kind of the bug eye look.
Yeah, well, they got these big metal frames on them, and they're really intense. They're cool goggles actually. And then the oxygen mask to kind of finish up that minifigure. So that's the minifigure.
Awesome, yeah, and that concludes the kit as well. So that is the designer studio for the Hawker Hurricane. Really awesome, like Landon was talking about, that cross element printing is pretty unprecedented, so a really cool kit. Love the camouflage as well. We will have this hopefully back in action here soon, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Otherwise, thanks for watching.